My name is Nadine McKenzie, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at the age of 39. And I'm sitting here today with Janelle. Janelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Janelle, and I am 38 years old. I was diagnosed in 2021 with HER2 positive breast cancer, and I'm currently in remission.
And I am Cindy Stater-Drummond, and I am a registered psychotherapist and private practice owner, and I am sharing space today to have this conversation around mental health and breast cancer. So thank you very much for allowing me to stay here today with you. I'd like to start the conversation is when you're ready to really invite you to share your story around what it was like when you first received the news and what went through your mind at the time when that statement, "you have cancer," was mentioned to you. And so I'll open up the floor to either of you to respond.
Okay. Well, for me, first thing, I got diagnosed during a pandemic, right? Which was very hard because it was limited support. I was actually told that I have breast cancer over the phone. Like, I wasn't even able, the doctor called me over the phone to tell me that she just dropped it, like, you have breast cancer. And my whole life just like, it was just like everything playing back from, like, I have family members who've been through this, and the end result was death. So it was just my first thing, my mind went to my kids. I have 2 little ones. That's where my mind went first. And it was just dark. I was frozen for a while. She was stating everything that I need to do, all of that stuff, but nothing was registering in my mind. It was just chaos at that time. So yeah, it was a bit lonely, yeah, and scary at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so you're here today sharing your story, and you've come quite a bit from that moment to where you are today. And we really want to hear more about that experience and feeling lonely and feeling fear and worry.
The fear comes from seeing the end results of death before, and fear of my children are so young. They were 6 and 7 at the time, and I'm a single mom. I already went through a divorce that was hard, and then now I'm going to be battling this illness that all by myself. I just think about, like, my appearance, how I'm going to look, how much longer I have. Like, I saw it with family, but I didn't know, like, I know the different stages and stuff, but I didn't know everything, right? So it was like, even to tell family, it was scary. I never told my children because they were so young. I didn't want to scare them. So my whole thing, I held it from a lot of people, trying to be strong. And I actually broke down, like, in between, like, after, like, right before I did chemo. I thought, I got this, I'm gonna do this. Because when I went in to see the doctors, actually, when I went to the hospital at Mount Sinai, it was different.
I would say maybe I've got a bit of anxiety, so I kind of decided I had cancer before the doctor told me, if that kind of makes any sense. I'm very, like, I research a lot, and I lost my father to colon cancer 5 years prior, so I had already been kind of in the space of doing research and things of that nature. So I kind of deal with everything head on, and I try to process all of the potential outcomes first, so that when I am hit with them, I'm more coming from a logical point rather than an emotional point. So I kind of assumed that I had either some form of cancer or an inflammation within my breast. So when I got a phone call as well from the oncologist at Mount Sinai, the surgical oncologist, she told me over the phone that you do have breast cancer. And that actually didn't hit me as hard. I was kind of just like, okay, what kind of breast cancer is it? What, you know, all these type of questions. What stage is it? Everything that I had already kind of been predispositioned to ask when my father was going through treatment. When it actually hit me was when they had followed up with me a week later and told me what stage I was. And that is when I broke down. And I remember my sister was on the phone with me, and I probably let out the sound like a dog that had just been like hit in a car. When they said stage 4 and that had spread to my lungs, that was like my worst case scenario. And I specifically said, like, I just don't want it to go to my lungs. I just don't want it to go to my lungs. And so when the doctor said it's stage 4 and it has spread to your lungs, I was flat out on the floor. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, now it's time to research. I have 2 young daughters who are 4 and 7.
Yeah.
And my first thought was just like, I'm not done raising them. I'm not done raising them. Who's going to raise them? I'm also a single mother. So yeah, that was my first reaction was that.
Did you suspect that there was something wrong? How did you know to go and get screened, if that was where you started with, or was it something else that indicated I need to speak to my doctor, something's not right here?
For me, I was getting chest pains, but like for 3 weeks. I didn't have any of the other symptoms, which is why I've been so vocal about my situation, because I didn't have any of the symptoms to go by that they constantly tell us to look for. I was just getting a pain in my chest, and I was at work, and I just kept going like this, and I really thought it was just like hormones, my period's coming, like just the usual. And then about 2 weeks later, there was a large lump in my breast, like from nothing to a very large lump.
And what was your experience, Janelle? Was it something where you had maybe just an idea, or was there as similar to Nadine's story where she had felt pain and that indicated I need to go check it out, I need to do something?
Funny enough, I woke up one morning and I had a pain under my breast at my side. And I kept rubbing the pain until I moved my hands further up to my breast and felt underneath my breast. I felt something. I'm like, that doesn't feel right. So because I have breast cancer known in my family, I went right away to my doctor, and he went right away to all the testing. And because it was COVID time, stuff took so long. Like before, the first one was inconclusive, but because it's in my family, once again, he pushed again for me to do the ultrasound and all of that stuff for me to get the testing and get to find out what was going on. But even now, thinking back, I know I had thick hair. And I remember once I took out braids and I washed my hair, and the amount of hair that came out, I was like to my friends, no, something is wrong. Something is wrong with me. And they're like, no, there's nothing. The hair just come out. My hair was thinning out. And like when you look back at stuff, you think that, you know, but yeah, maybe something you missed, you know. And that's the next thing, something that I had to tell myself too, like it wasn't my fault. Like I said in the beginning, I sat down and I'm like, because even people say to you, so you didn't screen, you didn't feel it, your breast,
if it was something that was in your control to find out.
So I'm like, no, I didn't, I'm sorry, but this is not the time. Yeah. I'm already blaming myself, thinking that's something I could have done. This is not the time for you to say that to me.
Nadine, yeah, I see you nodding your head. Did you similar in terms of blaming, or there was blame?
I think like amongst my peers and my friends and family, everybody knows I'm very like candid and blunt and stuff like that. So I feel like if someone asked me that, I'd be like, are you stupid? Like, why are you even asking me that? But I more so it's just me saying like, how come I didn't see this? How come I didn't see this? Why didn't I do this? I refuse to live in those spaces because I know that I can't even give that any energy, because that is what will get you going down like a very bad spiral of like what I could have done. I think for us, especially as single mothers, our kids are at the forefront of every single thought. So it's like, you're like, I failed my kids. Like my kids hug me right now. My daughter will be like, I'm so lucky to have a mom like you. And I remember when I was first diagnosed and she was hugging me, I remember like crying and thinking like, are you? Like, how lucky could you be? Oh, that makes me want to cry. But like, how lucky could you be
Right.
if your mom has breast cancer and she might die. Like these are literally the thoughts. Yeah, and I think also for me, it was always like this double-edged sword with my kids because I wanted to be around them for every single second, and then I didn't want to be around them at all. I was like, I felt, at one point I was afraid that we'll go to sleep and then they'll wake up and their mom will be dead. And they'll wake up to their dead mother. And then I was like, I look at them and I'm so happy, I want to spend every second with them, but then I'm constantly reminded about the fact that like my time with them is limited, and how is the death of their mother to cancer going to affect them and impact them? I'm not done raising them. So it's really like, it's a very big mental, you're being attacked mentally in every way, shape, or, in everything. What I could have done better. Who's my support system? Who's going to be there to support them when I'm gone? Who can love them, raise them, teach them, guide, like.
You both have shared about your feeling and your experience and the feelings that came up for you, and how did you manage? Where you've talked about a support system and having a support, and Janelle, you've said that, I felt lonely. How were you able to invite people to support you? Because sometimes we can just start thinking about everyone else and making sure we're taking care of everyone else so that they're okay, that we're not so much of the burden. So were you able to then say support, that I need support, and that I'm inviting individuals into this space and giving them permission to support me?
For me, like I said, when I spoke to my social worker at Mount Sinai, and when I told her all of my concerns and everything that I needed help with. So she told me one thing, just tell them where you need the support, tell them what you need them to do. Because a lot of times people don't know what to do. Like most of the times they will call you, like, I noticed that when people would call me and I'm like, hey, what's up, how are you, and they're like, oh my God, you're better than me. I'm so scared to call you to say, I'm so like, oh, Janelle, I'm so sad. I'm like, listen, no, none of that over here. What's up? We're good. I'm dealing with something right now, but that's not what I'm all about right now. And I don't need to think about it and reminded about it all the time, right? So,
a lot of confident people, you actually become the person that has to comfort others with your diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So like, I would tell them, like, in areas where, like, if they ask anything, I can, I need help with groceries, or even when the medication, chemo is free, but medication is not. So there's a lot of medication that you have to take when you're doing chemo. There's a shot that you need. That's like $1,000 for that shot, and you need that like 2 days after your chemo. And if you don't have that money and you don't have that insurance, I don't know what you're gonna do. So, like, family, just telling them what you need, what the help where they can help you, and also asking the right people for the help. Like, I'm not gonna ask my friend, hey, I need help with medication when I know she have her own struggles, but I would do that with my dad or my aunt or whatever. They would step in that way. So, and like tell them that it's okay to cook and drop meals off, and and all that stuff, and just to, like she said, comforting. It's funny, I comforted a lot of people during my time, even other friends who have friends who passed. Like, even my friend, when her birthday, and I went out with her, and I got the diagnosis, but I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to ruin her birthday. So I went out with her, and I was there and whatever, and it was before I was going to chemo. When I told her, and she's like, let me, like, she was just breaking up. I was just protecting you. And there's different people I tell different times. I didn't tell them, because that's how I am. I'm the person who is taking care of everyone. Like, when I got diagnosed, I didn't know that there was so much people that was dependent on me apart from my kids, and it was my turn to depend on them, So even my best friend in Jamaica, like, she was so far away and she couldn't help, but she made sure she called me every day. And then she would send up all the bush, the herbs from Jamaica. That was her piece. She used to send that up from Jamaica to me. That was her piece. And I told her, she's like, I wish I could be there to do. I'm like, you're doing enough. We're talking to me all the time. We're laughing. you're taking me away from what I'm going through, that's enough. That's all I need. So yeah, with me, finally, when I started telling them what I need and how they can help me, that kind of made my journey a little bit easier.
Same thing. I'm also looking for a soursop link, actually, as a matter of fact.
I have some in my fridge right now. And
I will come to collect the soursop. Again, I'm very, very open, very honest. I have like several circles of friends, but I'm very open and honest with everybody. I think for me, my first thought was, I do not want this to happen to anybody else. That was where my first thought went to. So the idea of like not sharing the information wasn't really an option, because I refused to be ashamed of what's happening. And I wanted to make sure that if it could be avoided, that I could help somebody else avoid it. So I wasn't more so trying to be like, oh, I don't want to protect anybody, or I wasn't thinking like, I want to make sure that everybody else is okay. I wanted everybody to like get strapped up and ready, because we have some stuff that we're about to deal with.
Yeah.
And so everybody needs to like, get ready for the battle of our lives, I guess. And so, the first thing that I did, I think my cousin who's in advertising was like, do you want to share your story? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, I want to tell as many Black women as humanly possible. I didn't have any of the signs. And I remember the previous year, everyone was posting all of these things about like the signs for breast cancer. And I specifically remember, after being diagnosed, my friend had been on like a posting binge. And I was like, don't have that, don't have that, don't have that. I remember last year doing that exact same thing. So because we have all of these postings about what the signs are, and I didn't have any of them, I was like, I can't just lay in the cut and not say anything. I need to like say, go get tested under every single circumstance. And I think I am a supportive friend. I think most Black women are. We are predispositioned to be strong and supportive and kind of have everybody's back. So I think for me, I'm blessed to say that that reciprocity came to me very, very quickly. And though I had a lot of people that would look at me and be sad and be like, oh my God, you look so whatever. But I just rebuke it. I will talk to them. Like, I'm just like, we're not doing that today. We don't have time for that. I don't have time to coddle you at this time. Like, we have to focus on the task at hand. We have the time that we're allotted, and we're not going to waste it doing that.